लैंग्वेज इसकी हिंदी है कि अंग्रेजी है?
English is better because the national audience will prefer it.
Okay.
Welcome on board, Shri Quaraishi ji, the former Chief Election Commissioner of India, on Vision India Forum's Road to 2047 series. This is something which is bringing on board the best, finest minds of the country and asking and requesting them for their valuable time to speak on areas and subjects of their expertise and relevance, and something for which they have been passionate about for years. S.Y. Qureshi ji is somebody who is from the 1971 batch Haryana cadre. He is somebody who is created with a lot of reforms from the election perspective and also as Secretary Youth Affairs and Sports. Somebody who is a very, very open-minded person who speaks his mind out, no holds barred. I hand it over to you, Mr. Qureshi, because without people like you, the country would not really be in good shape when we arrive at the 100th year of independence in 2047. And we look forward to hearing from you about your experiences as a bureaucrat since 1947, how you've seen the country, changing since your time of birth, 11th, 10th of June, 1947, I think you were born. And you've seen the country progress through so many prime ministers. You've been the head of the elections in India. You've handled elections in foreign countries, including Pakistan, wherein you had very, very, unparalleled experiences. All those things, apart from your views on such wokeism issues, which are being raised time and again by the people, so-called left-wing, right-wing, Naxals, urban Naxals, etc., etc. But S.Y. Qureshi has has a mind of its own, and somebody whose mind we cannot skip if we have to really progress as a balanced democracy by 2047. Over to you, Shri S.Y. Qureshi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You mentioned about our experience as a democracy in the country. We have been a greatly admired democracy worldwide. The very first election was a miracle, conducted by Mr. Sukumar Sen, an ICS officer, because at that time we had no experience, no machinery to conduct, and he built everything from scratch and conducted the largest election in world history at that point in time. Every election subsequently has been even only bigger, which means every election is the largest in world history. This experience is admired by countries abroad, which is why we set up an institute under the Election Commission called India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management in 2011. At the time when we proposed it, we faced a lot of opposition, including from the law ministry, surprisingly. And they created every possible problem in our way, but we went ahead and we set up an improvised institute on the top floor of the Election Commission of India. And now we have a huge, massive building, a beautiful building in Dwarka, Sector 13, Dwarka, on a 5-acre plot. So that itself is a very interesting history and an interesting story. But the important point there is that this institute was built to train our own trainers for election, because, as I said, India's election is the biggest in the world and is the biggest management event of any kind in the world, with 12 million staff, all government servants conducting it. Now, and zero error is what we permit them. Zero error means zero error. For us, 99% successful election is a bad election. It has to be 100% successful to the last booth and the last voter. Now, to conduct such an election, we need to train our staff thoroughly. So, which is why we thought we should have a very serious effort in training of our staff. And this triple IDEM was a step in that direction. Since we were going to set up this training center, and that was the time when we had decided to open up Election Commission to the world. Otherwise, we were a closed kind of an institution, minding our own business. But we started signing MOUs with other countries, and we threw open this institute to foreign countries as well. And I'm so happy and excited to tell you that in 10 years, 105 countries of the world have got their training from IITM. And when I say the 105 countries, I mean the election commissioners and the top staff of election bodies of all these countries. That is being a Vish Guru. That is being a world leader. So, and that is the use of our soft power, which we should be proud of. But media has not taken notice of it. Nobody has played it up because there was no politics in India. And media only takes interest when some politics comes in. So, but this triple IDM is the pride of the nation, and I'm so happy that is doing so well. Now, we have also been invited by many countries to um, um, observe their elections from time to time. I have been an observer mainly for the Commonwealth Observation Group, but sometimes independently also. And we get to see the best practices in every country. But the one under reference today is Pakistan election, the last Pakistan election of 2018. So I got an invitation from the Commonwealth Secretariat, so which I happily accepted. But surprisingly, it took a long time for me to get a visa. And whenever we talk to the High Commissioner of Pakistan in Delhi, we normally keep meeting them in various official functions here and there. So they were very embarrassed. They said, sir, since it's a question of your going there as an election observer, which is why the power is with the foreign ministry and the proposal has gone to their foreign ministry for clearance. If it was a normal ordinary visa, we would have just given it to you in 5 minutes over a cup of coffee. So why did it take so long? I got to know when I read that. They were very worried about an Indian chief election commissioner coming as an observer, and they perceive India as hostile, and they thought it will be problematic. Although I'd retired, I was not official, and even if CEC has not retired, he is not a political person. We are a totally non-political organization, distant from the government. We are an independent constitutional body, which is why we are respected worldwide. Anyway, it was a very interesting experience. When I went there, I first had a meeting with our High Commissioner there, Mr. Ajay Visaria, who happened to be my old friend also. And he gave me the briefing and the lowdown on their perception of what was happening on the ground. And then we went ahead along with the Commonwealth delegation. So if you want me to break at this point for your question, I would do that, or I'll just carry on.
What has been your experience as an observer in, especially in countries like Pakistan, and you would like to speak about some more experiences in some other countries, but Pakistan for sure, because they are due for another round very soon.
Yeah, correct. I think it's better that I finish with Pakistan first before I go to other countries, because there will be passing references. Now, the election in 2018 was considered a milestone in the democratic history of the country, because this was the only second time when there was a transition of a civilian government. For one civilian government completed full term, and another was taking over. So that was extremely significant. Um, with the Commonwealth group consisted of about 15, 16 people. It was headed by the former head of Nigeria, General Abu Bakr, and we spent about 2 weeks observing the events. Um, Now, the first thing we did was to meet delegations from all political parties, the opposition parties, civil society, and the media to understand pre-electoral environment. Um, which reported a not too fair election. That was the anticipation from what we heard. We were told that there has been massive pre-poll rigging, and mainly it referred to three things. One, that certain party leaders were forced to return their tickets. Second was muzzling of the media. And the third was the abuse of army and judiciary in favor of a political party. This is before we went there. We did not see any of these things because maybe all these things had already happened. And when the election came close, these were the kind of things which we did not observe, but we reported our delegation. There was simultaneously a European Union delegation which was monitoring and which had been there longer. And from we were constantly in touch with them also to compare notes, and we found that things were getting fine. There was the issue raised that there has been formal and informal pressure on the media, and they decided that self censorship will be a good thing to do. So that was one. About the army, the role of the army, we got very interesting information that the army's role behind the scene is writ large everywhere. And in fact, there were very interesting euphemisms or alternative expressions for the army. They never used they avoided the term army. But referring to the army, they said one was the establishment. Oh, the establishment wants this, the establishment. So, referring to the army. Or powers that be. Or khalai makhluk is people from space and angels, and most humorously, agriculture department. That agriculture department thinks this, that agriculture department is doing that, meaning the army. Now, as far as judiciary is concerned, which was pointed out to us that the timing of the court cases has been such that opposition leaders could be debarred from contesting election. So all that was happened. So anyway, I was in touch with our High Commissioner, and who also kept on filling in the gaps in the information and the details. But of course, India had was totally hands off. India had no interest in what happened there. Of course, wishing that there will be a secret election, there will be a fair election. And at that time, there were used to be this interesting debate that Imran Khan had secret support of the army. And now that was something which, instead of unnerving us, was actually a matter of comfort for India, because you want to deal with a government in Pakistan which has the support of the army, otherwise it will be useless. You negotiate with the prime minister something and which he is not able to implement because the army is opposed to him, so it is useless. So if army is supporting a government, it is good for them and it is good for us as well, because that will mean that nobody will try to sabotage the discussion and negotiations which go on between the two countries. So anyway, that was the scenario. On the poll day, the objection which was being raised, which was pointed out to us, that a decision had been taken that unlike the previous election of 2013, when the army was deployed outside the polling station, this time the decision was that at least one soldier will be inside the polling station. And many parties were objecting to it. When we confronted the army top brass, when we went to call on them, look, this is the thing, and are you there inside to interfere in the election? They assured the delegation that there is no question of that. And they gave a reason also, which seemed to make sense, that the last time the objection, the popular objection was that the army was sitting outside and inside the rigging was happening. They said to avoid that kind of objection, we decided that we'll keep a watch inside also by just keeping a soldier who will just watch the thing. He has no power to interfere or control the operation there. He'll just sit and observe and will be a deterrent for the mischief makers. And I personally went to about 100 polling stations. All my colleagues went to as many polling stations, and we did not find any interference or any kind of proactivity from the army personnel sitting inside. Another thing which we did, which we normally do to find whether the polling process is going fairly, the best people to ask is the agents of the opposition parties. They are the first to make a complaint and make objections. So we ask them. We first check their visiting card with their card, identity card, to know whether they really represented the parties, opposition party. And when we ask them how things are going, they all say that everything was fine. No complaint, not one complaint was made in the 100 stations which I visited, and similarly my colleague. So what conclusion do we come to? That the things are, at least on the election day, things are fine. Even before the poll day, when we went around, we saw the polling was going on fairly, freely. There was no, but before we landed there, a month before that, some serious incidents had taken place. There have, particularly in KPK and Balochistan, where terrorist attacks in the preceding weeks had claimed more than 170 lives, including 3 candidates. So, but that was behind us. When we were there, by then things had settled down, and we saw election rallies being held very peacefully, except we saw a lot of abusive campaign. As happens anywhere, including in our country, when you're casting aspersion on each other. So it was initially the abusive, but then election commission came down heavily on the political parties and the campaigners, and after that things were quiet. So that is some what it is about
Your
the
experience in Pakistan is something which is, quite a paradox wrapped in an enigma, because a lot of questions come out of what you say, and a lot of answers are basically rhetoric now. Any which ways, now let me take you to another. Let me digress a little bit from the main topic. So you've been, somebody who's been known to speak his mind out on issues varied related to national significance over the years. And everybody understands what Mr. Qureshi says, something which cannot be, dealt with lightly, because those have ramifications, and those will have, implications on India's democracy going forward. Your views on the population issues, if you like to speak on a few of them, no controversies, but yes, you've been always talking about India's Muslim population data being basically first is not something which is right. So, and the population, kind of the entire population game that the minority is accused of is something which is blown out of proportion by the right wings. So, what do you have to say to that?
I had written a book 2 years ago, 2020, 21 or 22. It was called the Population Myth, Islam, Muslims, and Family Planning in India. So, where I try to break these myths. The myths were, and I then summed it up in a PowerPoint presentation, that there were many myths, but I have focused on 5 of them. One, that Muslims are responsible for population explosion, and they are deliberately producing children through the use of polygamy. Almost every Muslim has 4 wives and 25 children. हम 5 हमारे 25, हम 4 हमारे 40, was a slogan which we have heard from the mouth of very, very senior political leaders. Totally irresponsible. I did this analysis. This book was written over 25 years, and it has used only government data, nothing else but government data, and particularly a National Family Health Survey, which comes every 5 years. And what does it show? Yes, the Muslims have the highest birth rate, and but they are catching up very fast with family planning. And second impression which was created was that because of the high birth rate, if a Hindu family had 2 children, Muslims had 10 children or 8 children. We found, National Family Health Survey found, that the gap was never more than one child. Not 8, not 10, but one child. And that gap also has been narrowing through every 5 years, because Muslims are adopting family planning faster than the Hindus and all other communities, which is why the gap is narrowing. Now, so admitted that Muslim total fertility rate, TFR, which refers to the number of children a woman will produce in her lifetime. The TFR is the highest of the Muslims, but it is narrowing, and it is very close. It is only 0.3 more than the Hindu. So hopefully in the next 5 years or 10 years, even that gap. Now, secondly, the Muslims are lagging behind because of these socio-economic factors which influence family planning behavior of any community. First of all, it is literacy, particularly of girls. As the literacy increases, the number of children goes down. Second is income. As the income grows, the number of children goes down. Third is service delivery. As the services reach the people, family number of children goes down. In all these three, Muslims are the most backward. So we must ask, what is the government doing about Muslim education? We must ask them, what are they doing about Muslim income? And what we hear instead is a boycott the Muslims. Don't buy even vegetable from a vegetable seller. Do the economic boycott. If they become poorer, then this factor will come into play. Then they will start producing more children, which will be a cause of problem for the country. So therefore, we have to be honest about what we think and what we are saying, and not dishonest and mischievous. So, and most of this campaign is ill-informed and mischievous, guided by the motive to polarize, to create hatred among the Hindus and fear that they are in danger. I have many videos which I have seen, you must have seen, that Muslim population is deliberately increasing so far that they will become majority in the country, so that political power is captured by them and they will become rulers again. So that kind of fear is being created in the Hindu mind deliberately by very powerful organizations. Now, it is all rubbish. It is all lies, total lies and nothing but lies. So, because there is no question of Muslim overtaking. In fact, asked a friend of mine, Professor Dinesh Singh, who was Vice Chancellor of Delhi University, a great mathematician, to do a mathematical model for me. Mathematical model means, look, I'm giving you 70 years data. If the same rate continues, in how many years will Muslims overtake the Hindus? You know what was his reply? Not even for 1,000 years. And he sent me this data, this graph. You see, the bottom line is the growth of the Muslim, and the upper line is the growth of the Hindu. The gap is increasing. Where is the question of Muslims overtaking them? This is for the last 70 years. I said, okay, now tell me what will happen in the next 100 years. So he sent me another graph. Similar line. The bottom line is Muslim growth, the upper line is Hindu growth. The gap is increasing. Now, where is the question of Muslims overtaking? Now, anybody who is talking the other language, I think needs to be condemned because it is all untruth. And this is from Dinesh Singh, not my cousin, a great mathematician, a very, very well-known person. So, no, based on facts and figures, we should talk of facts. Second thing, every Muslim has 4 wives. हम पांच हमारे 25, which we have heard from the top leadership in the country. That also is totally unreasonable because in India, two interesting things. One, that polygamy is very little in the country, but not confined to Muslims alone. Every community has
Sir, I
some
take
polygamy.
that point. I take that point. Polygamy is not synonymous with Muslims alone.
Yeah. And in fact,
it is practiced across officially, unofficially. It is an individual choice.
yes. And if you see this graph, the tribal 15%, and the Buddhists, the Jains, the Hindus, and the Muslims. Muslims have the least polygamy. But now this is a paradox. Muslims do not practice polygamy, but they are willing to die for their right to practice polygamy.
In fact, I know. In fact, sir, sorry to interrupt. In fact, I know people who've also, come up with logic about economic fragility, leading to Muslims being probably less polygamous than the other communities.
Yeah, various reasons. Now, secondly, forget about religion and whether religion permits or not permits or something. Polygamy in actually on a large scale, except for the small numbers, is not possible in the country. Why? Because women do not exist. You must have heard of the concept of gender ratio. On every census and every the time and again, for 1,000 men, how many women exist? According to the last census, which was
980 or something.
940, 940, which is the highest in 100 years. It used to be 920, 25, and 30, which means out of 1,000 people, 60 men will not find their only and first wife. So when you can't get, when you are one wife, how will I get my second wife? The women don't exist. So therefore, all this talk about polygamy is humbug, deliberate mischief, because it's not that they don't know the facts and figures, but because it suits and it appeals to people. So where are the women for the second and third marriage? They don't exist. The numbers are adverse against women. There are less women, which is a sad story in itself. Why do we have less women? If 100 boys are born, 100 girls are born. Where do the girls disappear? Because we don't allow them to be born. There is female feticide, or the neglect. Within first 5 years, female mortality is higher than boys. After which, of course, nature has designed women to be stronger. Once they survive, they live longer than men. So now these are things which are basically based on either illiteracy or mischief.
Yesterday, I was talking to somebody who's just celebrating his 100th year. The former chairman, first chairman of Coal India, Mr. Arun Sharma. Somebody who's seen Mr. Gandhi, who's seen the likes of Mr. Nehru, who's worked with them, talked with them, walked the talk with them. He's seen through at least 7 or 8 prime ministers. He's been 50 years with J.D. Tata. Somebody I was very, apprehensive about what to talk and how to talk with a man who's 100 years. I asked him, do you think Kashmir was a mistake? What are your views on that?
No, I don't know. I don't know much about Kashmir politics and Article 370 or something or the other, so I would rather not talk about it. Only that when we went to conduct elections, people asked us what did we find. We found exactly what we find in the rest of the country. Every citizen of Kashmir wants the election so that he or she has their own elected representative through which they can get their work done. So we did not find any peculiar politics around 370 and all that. They participated in the election most enthusiastically. Their turnout was better than many other states of the country. The elections were extremely peaceful. So that is what we found.
So, according to you, now abrogation has been something which is taken the country in a forward direction.
Well, since these are legal and constitutional questions, of which I'm no expert, I would rather not comment because obviously we have done it, and but discontent is also brewing. So there is no closure. So till closure is achieved and a peaceful closure is
Yeah.
achieved, the
So
problem will persist.
the model we follow is that we absolutely follow the complete respect model for our guests, and no cross questioning is what our approach and our mantra is. So going by that mantra, love jihad and hijab, these are two issues which again there have been some comments from your side. If you wish, you may speak on them.
Well, I think the hijab controversy is again created by mischief. Same spirit, to keep the communal cauldron boiling and to create division between communities. Now, what's wrong with the hijab? Hijab is nothing but a head covering. I can wear a cap. A Sikh may wear a turban, and a turban is a part of uniform. Any where the hijab controversy has been created is deliberately political creation and with the intention of polarizing. And that's my feeling. And it is up to the girls, up to women to wear what they like to wear. And basic purpose of hijab is to guard their modesty. So, and if they want to do it, no, we cannot ask them to, take off your clothes. We half naked. Who are we? Because it is up to them to decide what they want to wear. Of course, Muslim parents should not force their children to do it. And in any case, the school uniform, well, a school uniform can easily say that just as a Sikh turban is allowed, that for Muslim the hijab is also allowed of the same color as the rest of the dress. So I think it is a created controversy and highly avoidable. Anything which is divisive is highly avoidable. And love jihad, of course, also is very exaggerated. Once or twice, no, the love actually has no border. One community boy falls in love with a girl from another community. They are both adults. If they decide to marry, so the law also cannot come in. And in fact, many cases which have gone up to the High Court and Supreme Court, and Supreme Court and those High Courts also have said, well, they are consenting adults, let them decide where they want to live. So this also is highly exaggerated and with the intention of creating rift between the communities.
Conversion is something which was questioned even in a movie which was recently made, called Kerala Story. Now, Vipul Shah is the producer of this movie. I had spoken to him also, and I told him that your data that you show is something which is not backed by conclusive evidence, and there are questions, writ large upon such data. So conversion definitely is something questionable in the pretext of love, because the reverse conversions are probably never talked about. But we always find that Muslims boys, they fall in love with some Hindu or Christian girls, and there is a conversion. So that is what the Kerala Story movie tried to depict. Your views about the conversion factor in the love jihad, again, that is the problem with love jihad, not falling in love with communities, inter-community love and all that.
The practice of every religion and even conversion is allowed by the Constitution. All right. But it is only forced conversion which is illegal. And in many states, anti-conversion laws have already been passed. Whether they have stood the test of the Constitution or not, that is something else. But forced conversion is definitely wrong. If a boy, cheats the girl and paints a rosy picture and marries her only with an evil intention, of course, he's a criminal, punish him under the existing laws of the land. But and at the end of the day, even these conversions or even these intercommunal marriages are not as many as made out. Now, in fact, once the thing which is missing from this story, the biggest victim of interfaith marriages are Muslim girls. Any Muslim boy who becomes educated and prosperous, a Muslim girl, a Hindu girl walks away with him. Now, this is the version of the Muslim girls. Hey, look what happens. All पढ़ा लिखा हमारे boys, उनको तो हिंदू लड़कियां ले जाती हैं, हम तो अकेले रह जाते हैं. ये भी तो एक वर्जन है कि स्टडी किया है आपने. You are a media man. Have you done this study? Please do it. So there is the other side of it, that in the process, Muslim girls are getting deprived.
That is what even the Dalit girls are talking about.
Yeah, maybe. Now, as far as Kerala story is concerned, I have not seen the story, but my feeling is that the intention is very, very clear, polarize and create hatred, and in which they are succeeding. Now, when I read the headline, 33,000 girls taken to ISIS, I was also shocked. My blood also boiled. And when the fact came, no, it is not 33,000, it is only 3. On that ground alone, the film should have been banned. For a blatant lie, 33,000, and in 3 there is no difference. And in these 3 also, I read in the media only, and in these 3 also, there is only one Hindu girl involved. Now, whether it is 1,000 and 10,000, it is despicable. It is something to be very worried about. So that, but a total falsehood, exaggerating figure to this extent to make the people's blood boil. 33,000. What happened to the 33,000? And even the solution given by the court, I think, is very funny, ridiculous. That, in the small print, that should be right that this story is not based on fact, it is only a fiction. Who reads it? Do you read all those captions? And how many people are uneducated when they'll see the film? Nobody reads the small print. This is based on fiction. So if it is fiction, and fiction with the intention to create a rift between the communities, this issue has not been tackled with the seriousness it deserved, because it does create a rift between communities based on falsehood of a grave magnitude. 33,000. Where did the figure come from? And what is the punishment for the spreading this kind of a lie? What action has been taken against anybody, any media or anyone, for this kind of a blatant lie?
I totally agree with what you're saying in terms of the statistical gaps revolving around the conclusivity of the centric nucleus issue, which was highlighted in the drama, the make-believe fictional depiction. All movies are supposed to be make-believe fictional depictions. Now, Kashmiri Pandits, you've been on record saying that Kashmiri Pandit, whatever happened, and we all understand from a human rights perspective, there is nothing to talk about it. But then the basis again is religious divide, which had its roots pre-independence, and with the letter of accession, this kept boiling, and political mistakes, political nepotism, all these years, 50 years, finally led to the with that doomed night of 1990. Yes, it didn't happen overnight. And today, where we are, it seems that it's going to be a long drawn battle for normalcy to be restored in the valley of Kashmir. Jo Gar Firdaus Amin Hasto Amin Hasto, that has to take some years before we go back to those heavenly years of the Sidar and the lovely lakes of Kashmir and Srinagar. So what do you have to say to this religious issue which is the basis of the divide, convert or go away, or die, Relief Galif Sharif. ये कश्मीर फाइल्स बोल के एक पिक्चर बनी थी जिसने बड़ा, it created a huge furor in the country. It was something similar to what we just spoke about on Kerala story. Your views on Kashmir Pandits and what is the future for Kashmir?
No, I don't know when you say that I'm on record making a statement on Kashmiri Pandit. I don't remember any such a statement which I ever made. The only thing which I would like to say, it is very sad, it's a pity that the Kashmiri Pandits had to leave Kashmir, their home. And I would like to see that all of them they go home and they get settled down there. Also, secondly, my own experience has been, the terrorists may have tried to create differences between Kashmiri Pandit and Kashmiri Muslim. But I have seen Kashmiri identity is stronger than, and their bond is much stronger than any other bond. A Kashmiri Pandit or a Kashmiri Muslim feels closer to a Kashmiri Pandit than to a, say, South Indian Muslim. So the bond of their Kashmiriyat is much stronger than any religious bond, and the terrorists were targeting Pandit deliberately with mischievous intention. And also, one thing which people miss in the debate: for every Kashmiri Pandit who was killed, 99 Kashmiris who were killed were Muslims. So it was not originally, targeting was not of a Pandit. When the whole scale, large scale killing is being done, all kinds of people will get killed. So, and some of them were Pandit. So to make it a communal issue, actually, we have played into the hands of the terrorists. This is what they wanted. And we have conceded that. Now, Kashmiris have a strong bond, and Pandits should go back. And government has been in power for so long. Why have they not restored the status quo ante? What is holding them back?
Sir, we go back to a little bit to the elections now before we end the show in the next 5-7 minutes. Elections have been marked with or punctuated with a lot of question marks over them. Campaign money, campaign funding is one issue, which in India is a big parameter on which it really falls down compared to the global indexes. Now, what could be the panacea for such basic, very critical, significant issues about funding and campaign funding?
But, electoral funding has been a big issue. And I think our elections are much better than they were 30 years ago. But the only unsolved issue is of money. The abuse of money in the election is extremely high. We try to tackle it. In my time, I set up an expenditure monitoring division, set up stringent rules. We started seizing money, raiding places, seizing money, and thousands of crores have been seized in the elections ever since. Yet, and in fact, I had written a book called An Undocumented Wonder, The Making of the Great Indian Election. And in that book, I had listed 40 modus operandi of abuse of money, which we had discovered till then. Now, crime is always ahead. So they would have discovered many more ways. The one surely they have that, during the election process, we used to raid, we will stop your car, we will stop buses, trucks, raid hotels and farmhouses and catch money. Now, they have realized that so there is no movement of money during election as far as possible. The money reaches the destination before the election because the approximate date. If the money reaches the destination beforehand and there is no movement on the ground, where will you catch? So they are coming up with the various ways, but unfortunately, money power seems to be the only unsolved issue in Indian elections.
I mean, the timing, indirectly or directly, I feel what you are hinting at is the 2,000 rupee denomination being banned and 3 months time being given.
No, no,
Because
no, no.
very
No, I did not have that in mind at all. I was talking of the cash which gets distributed, the black money. Although there is an official limit of say for Lok Sabha 70 lakhs or 80 lakhs, whatever it is now, but the money which is spent is 5 times, 10 times. I had the 2,000 rupee was not in my mind at all. And of course, it will have an impact on the election because if some politician has hoarded this money for distribution and suddenly it become illegal, but that money has not been declared illegal.
Sir, another way to fund elections is use public money to dole out, kitties. Cash for votes, dole out kitties, two sides of the same coin. Your views?
No, no, no. There are two things. The freebies which are doled out, they are given by the government if elected. Whereas the money which is distributed and the gold chain and dhotis and saris and other things, these are given by political parties and political candidates during the election before coming to power. So both, the two are different. Election promises in the manifesto are perfectly legitimate. Even if now my welfare scheme may be your freebie. Now, 2 rupees a kilo of rice, I think it was a freebie then, it was looked down upon. But it has stopped starvation deaths in the country. Now, I think it's a very good thing. A bicycle given to girls in Bihar has led to increase the enrollment of girls and reduce dropout. So that freebie actually there has been a very good welfare measure.
So here
So
I
one
understand what
part
you're
is
saying.
welfare, the other is yeah.
The
Please go
timing,
ahead.
the timing of such a scheme rollouts is something which you would like to you to speak about,
Yes, yes. So
not about the
very
free.
no, no, no. Very good point. In fact, I have said it many times that if a political party has to give whatever they want to give to the citizens, they are welcome to do it. But why that all the bright schemes come to their mind 1 month before the election? They are in power for 5 years, for 4 years, 11 months, they do nothing,
They
and
play on the
suddenly
side,
they have
the reinforcement.
yeah, suddenly they have bright ideas, and I want to give that do this, want to do this for you, do this. Why were you sleeping for 4 years and 11 months? I've said it many times.
This is one issue which needs to be really taken up very seriously by the chief election office, and also the judiciary of this country has to step in, because you see, otherwise cash for votes or freebies of the public funding, there is absolutely no difference. Now we come to violence. Violence in states like West Bengal is something which has become quite synonymous with elections. Every time the polls are held there, the central armed forces are at absolute bay with respect to controlling such issues. It's no holds bars, a free field for everyone to score a goal wherever they wish, and the ruling dispensation, which generally is having the control over the law and order of the state, is something which plays dirty most of the times. Not only in Bengal, there are other states, but Bengal has a history of violent elections. Your take on violent elections uh, going forward?
There have been violent elections in many states. Bihar at one time was number one, UP was high, Bengal was one. Uh, but 2005 onwards, Bihar elections have become very peaceful. UP elections have become very peaceful. I remember conducting 2012 elections in West Bengal, or was it 2011? Totally peaceful, zero the drop of blood. We were able to do it by the intelligent planning and deployment of paramilitary forces.
2011, Bengal elections of 2011, when Mamta took over from left.
Yes, just see the history. The most peaceful election in Bengal history was that election.
That should be used as a case study for the global audience. I mean,
It's a case study, and it should be studied. Why is it that we were able to do it peacefully? And in fact, we need to understand, when we were doing Bengal elections, we were doing simultaneously Tamil Nadu election. same size states, but the problems were, the ground realities were different. We did Tamil Nadu election in one day, West Bengal election in 7 phases. Why? Because in Bengal, issue was law and order, bombs and guns. In Tamil Nadu, it was money and the bribery. So we had different focus on these two states. But the fact that we were able to do one day election in Bengal, because they don't have this kind of history, booth capturing, poll day violence. In Bengal, we used to examine the data for 11 months before the poll day. About 1,000 to 1,200 murders were common. And we studied all that, and after that, 2011, we did the most peaceful election ever. My experience is that if we are able to follow up a one peaceful election by a second peaceful election, things then become normalized. That becomes the norm. It happened in Bihar, it became in the norm in UP. But unfortunately, the very next election in Bengal, the general election 2014, was violent again. So we were not able to consolidate the gains of the learning of 2011 election.
So why don't you
And I would
document?
be very happy.
Why don't you
Yeah.
document this case study for the Bengal 2011, which were conducted under you? It was a
Well,
most critical election, tipping point, kind of wherein the left front, after 35 years, had finally tilted over to and they had catapulted to the pressures of Mamata Banerjee, who was fighting this out for the last 30 years.
yeah, but I have many other things to do there for, but the entire large big country is there. Somebody should come forward and do this case study. Why we were able to do a peaceful election then? Of course, we did some new thing there. This was the first time when I introduced the concept of IPS observers. We used to send IAS observers to other states and income tax and revenue service observers. But IPS observers were introduced by us for the first time in the 2011. That was one. And the number of phases that we decided, the timing and everything, tight control, all these things, and of course, public education, voter education program we had started around the same time. If you see the newspapers those days, they were full of praise for the election commission. When they saw these are the words of the media, that the most peaceful election ever. So same place, same people, we were able to do it. So we need to do a little more and first study the problem. Why case study? Why 2011 was good and 2014 or before and after they were not good?
Because there have been 4 elections post that: 2014, 2016, 2019, 2021. 2 assemblies and 2 Lok Sabha. All 4 of them have been rigged with complete violence all over. But anyways, now shifting against the last few minutes, your book about Delhi. You've been an avid Delhiite since your birth, and you've seen Delhi over the last 75 years. Something you'd like to speak about that book?
Yeah. I belong to Delhi for my family for 500 years. So we have Delhi in our blood. So I wanted to document it. And in 2010, just before the Commonwealth Games, my book, coffee table book, was brought out. It was called Old Delhi Living Tradition, where I try to capture social and cultural life of Delhi through my own eyes and through the eyes of my contemporary.
But anything which you would like to talk about Delhi, because it has really changed over the last 75 years. Rigged with even the Delhi mob violence, which was the last incident, and now such huge rift politically, if I may sound politically, the rift between the use of the LG against the government, these kind of issues. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I'm not. I have no personal first-hand knowledge, but what I read in the media, an elected government, an elected chief minister or the cabinet, not allowed to function and being reduced to the position of not even a municipal corporation. something is wrong. And a Supreme Court judgment actually has made it very clear. So, of course, since it is a national capital, it's a national capital, New Delhi part of it has to have full protection, and the police in the hands of Home Ministry is absolutely essential, which is ensured. So, but interference in everything that the Delhi government does because it is politically hostile to you, to my mind, looks very unreasonable. And in any case, the matter is pending. It will go to the Supreme Court again, I'm sure, because the Supreme Court had given very clear remarks on the role of the elected government vis-a-vis the central government.
Well, finally, your views on Mr. Anna Hazare and the right to reject, right to recall issue, wherein finally you probably, said that you accept that right to reject should be there. So, what are your views on Mr. Hazare and these two small issues?
When he raised these issues in 2011 or so, I had rejected both of them. And in my book also, which I mentioned, I rejected both of them. But then Mr. Hazare came to meet us, and where he argued, they said that the right to recall that demand, they said that we withdraw because we understand your point of view. Because I had argued that right to recall will mean destabilization of the country. It's not easy to conduct elections. It's a huge exercise, and we don't conduct elections only in New Delhi. We conduct elections in left-wing extremist areas in Jharkhand, in Chhattisgarh, and in the troubled states of the northeast, in Kashmir. And after 3 months, somebody says, no, I don't like the MP. 5,000 people signed the memorandum, we don't like the MP, remove him. And he's recalled, which means another election. Is it a joke? So Anna Hazare said, look, we had not realized this, the implication of this. We immediately dropped this demand. However, on the other thing, right to reject, they said, you please consider. My argument was that right to reject will mean that people will make it a fun hobby. Nota, and election is held, and everybody is rejected. After 3 months, we hold another election. Now, as I said, election is no joke. Same Chhattisgarh area where every other day, there is a landmine disaster where even the armored vehicles are blown apart. So 3 months later, we go again to conduct elections because some people are playing their hobby of right to reject. So he said that your fear that there will be too many elections again and again, perhaps will not happen, because our idea is that certain reform which you have been demanding and the government is not conceding will happen then. To explain to you, you mentioned money power. We see they said you have not been able to control money power. You have been demanding that criminals should be debarred from contesting election. They will not be given tickets, but they are given tickets. But suppose after winning election and after fighting election, spending 20 crores on an election, under right to reject the election is set aside and another election is held, that is when political parties will start taking your advice seriously. Then they will not put up a criminal candidate because they will realize that Janta is going to throw them out. 20 crores pe waste ho jayega. Chalo, let us put up good candidates. So that I thought had sense, and I said, okay, yes, very good point. Let us take it further. Let us have more discussion on that, which unfortunately didn't happen, but it should be in the public domain.
One nation, one poll.
One nation, one poll has many advantages, but many disadvantages, which I have mentioned through article several times. For the election commission, that is the best thing, because the voter is the same, the polling station is the same, the machinery which conducts the election is the same, and security apparatus is the same. So a voter goes there, instead of pressing one machine, he presses three machines. So it's easy. At the same time, I remember one Odisha MP saying that what do people want? He said people love frequent election because for most people, the only power they have is the right to vote. They become important only once in 5 years. Otherwise, no MP or MLA will show his face. Only after 5 years he'll go. He says because of repeated elections, at least politicians go with folded hands to the voters, and the money with the black money which they have collected or white money, at least this gets recirculated. I heard a very interesting slogan in a youth parliament in MIT Pune by a girl of Chhattisgarh कि जब जब चुनाव आता है गरीब के पेट में पुलाव आता है. So now there are advantages of frequent election, and because one nation one election, it is not the convenience of the election commission or the political parties that decide that. It is a question of federalism. If a government falls, well, what will happen to the simultaneous election? And the government keep falling here and there. So one state government falls, why should 28 other states suffer? If central government falls, why should all 28 state governments suffer? So therefore, the present system has its advantages, and also in this narrative, one falsehood is used many times, that because of the model code everything comes to a standstill, which is a lie. The model code very clearly says nothing ongoing will stop. Only no new thing will be announced, which is what we discussed. All bright ideas which come to a politician's mind only 2 weeks before the election, only they are stopped because they are meant to fool the voters. Only they are stopped. So what is wrong with that? And even if that is such a bright idea, in crisis, in disasters, earthquake, flood, if something new has to be done, even that can be done with prior knowledge and approval of the election commission. So to say that everything comes to a standstill is wrong. All ongoing activity goes on.
Yeah, I do understand. All this, especially in an era when fake news and short-term, impact of the media makes such a huge difference. Your job is really, your task is really cut out as election commissioners, as the people who govern the mandate of this huge democracy. I wish very soon we can have somebody from the Bollywood or somebody from the film industry, Hindi film industry or otherwise, who can think about documenting experiences as an election leader, because if India is the biggest democracy in the world, elections are the biggest festival that we so proudly talk about only when they come. Then obviously the gods who we need to worship are the election commissioners. And Mr. Qureshi, thank you so much. People like you are you are the reason why we have been celebrating democracy. Whatever have been the glitches, we have been progressing today. And if the Prime Minister announces from the ramparts that we are the fastest growing economy, despite all the global rigors and tremors, including the corona times inflicted upon by big countries, we can be restly assured people like you, bureaucrats like you, who hold charge of such important offices, will be responsible for India finally becoming #1 country in the world. Thank you, Jain sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Again.
Thank you very much.